everybody. So today we're going to talk some more about the Galactic Center, specifically about the research from the participants that have wanted to participate thus far, that have wanted to be involved. And thank you so much, everybody, for wanting, all the people that have wanted to be involved in this. I really appreciate it. It's cool to see people have an interest in this stuff too. You know, other people besides, you know, sometimes I feel kind of strange in the shit that interests me. So, so it's nice to see that there are other people that have an interest in this too, or at least are a little bit curious. So I appreciate it. I really do. And if anybody else wants to be a part of this study, this research, it is not too late. It is never too late. Let me know and I'll get you the questionnaire to do. If you don't want to fill out the questionnaire, some people have not wanted to do that. Some people haven't known some of the questions. Some people may not. I found that some people don't know how to answer, and that is okay. If you don't want to do the questionnaire, or if you get the questionnaire and you're like, I don't really know how to answer this, but I want to be a part of the study, I want to be a part of the research, just shoot me your date of birth, time of birth, place of birth, and some kind of name that I can put with your chart. This can be a fake name. This can be your Reddit username. I just need something to attach to it. And if anything is ever published with this, I'll ask permission and everything to use the name, or I can just use like person 1, person 2, you know, whatever. You won't be identified personally. If anybody's concerned about that won't happen. That won't happen. But yeah, if you'd rather just shoot the information, that's fine. That totally works too. Whatever you want to do is fine. And I also want to start out by saying I'm not a Galactic Center expert. Do my little disclaimer. I reserve the right for any and all of this to be wrong later on if I find that it is. This is how we learn new things. I am not claiming that I am correct. I do feel like I am on a track. I feel like it's too early to say if it's the right track, but I do feel like I am on a track. But I think it's too early to say if it feels like the right track to me, but I think it's too early to say that it is actually the right track. That would be misleading, I think. So I'm not going to say that, but I do feel like I'm on a track. Anyway, so another area that was not an area of focus originally. Again, this was not an original area of focus with the questionnaire or with the GC. The original parameters were just people that had conjunctions to the GC. Then we opened up the questionnaire just a little bit more to include oppositions to the GC. But these were people that had, if you had an opposition, you also needed to have the conjunction. The main parameter was having a conjunction to the Galactic Center. So as I'm looking at these charts, right, well, Chiron is of interest to me anyway. It's of interest to me anyway. But I started noticing that as I was flipping through these charts, originally flipping through the original people that participated a while back, I started noticing that Chiron seemed to come in my mind. I noticed it a lot when people would Chiron somehow had something to do with the GC or the GAC axis, or it was trine the GC. When I started including the trines too, I noticed that. And plus I'll link the blog post, or I'll put the blog post, depending on where you watch this, I'll put the blog post in the description that I did about Chiron. I do think that Chiron has some kind of a tie-in to the GC. I do think it does. I won't go into all that again, just because that would make this video very, very long. But I do think that there is a tie-in with Chiron. Now, I think there's probably a tie-in with Chiron and the GC, regardless if Chiron does anything with your GC, right? Regardless if it conjuncts it, or trines it, or opposes it, or I think there probably is a tie-in regardless, because when I think of Chiron, Chiron is like, you know, a bridge between Saturn and Uranus, a bridge between what's known and what's unknown kind of thing. And I think the GC kind of functions in a similar way in terms of what is known here in this dimension or this galaxy, or however you want to think about it, and then the other side, what's on the other side. It's kind of like a bridge in that sense too. So I do think that there is a tie-in. I do think that there is some kind of a similarity there. I do think there is. In saying that, I started looking at people that actually had, obviously Chiron's going to be somewhere in everybody's chart, and I do think it ties in somehow regardless. But I was curious about people that actually had Chiron conjunct the GC, opposite the GC, trine the GC, or even conjunct Jupiter. I paid attention to that too. And I paid attention to that because the Galactic Center is in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. So I did count that too. Now, I took these numbers, these percentages. They come from looking at all the people that had these things going on, you know, with the entire study. So I came back with 41% of people having Chiron either trine the GC, conjunct the GC, conjunct the galactic anticenter or opposing the GC, or Jupiter conjunct Chiron. That's actually a little higher than I thought it was going to be. For whatever reason, I thought it might be slightly lower. Even though I saw it a lot, I kind of figure I'm not going to be totally right. Not that that's like an overwhelming number or anything, because Chiron is generational, right? It is a generational thing. It moves slow. So, but I do think that it's interesting that 41% of people that have been attracted to being a part of this questionnaire do happen to have Chiron trine the GC, conjunct the GC, opposite the GC, or conjunct Jupiter. I do think that's interesting. Now, another thing I noticed was Chiron being retrograde. I remember seeing that a decent amount of because I've also mentioned before that I think retrograde planets, specifically Jupiter retrograde, but retrograde planets in general, I do think that they kind of have an affinity for the GC as well. So Chiron by retrograde motion is interesting to me too in this case. I came back with 36% of people having Chiron retrograde. Now, there was often overlap between these two. So like a lot of the same people that would be in the 41% that had Chiron trine, conjunct, opposite, or, you know, the GC or conjunct Jupiter, there was a lot of overlap in that 36% that has Chiron retrograde. Not everybody, but there was a decent amount of overlap. The exact percentage, I don't know, because I started to go like, cross-eyed from looking at numbers. But there did seem to be a decent amount of overlap. Not 100%, but there was a decent amount of overlap. But yeah, I do feel like with them both functioning as bridges in their own ways, they do feel like they could work in tandem to a certain extent. This is probably stronger for people that actually have Chiron conjunct the GC, opposite the GC, trine the GC, conjunct Jupiter. It probably is stronger. For those people, I would even say stronger for Jupiter RX, or sorry, Chiron RX people. But I do think like the notion of it being able to to really work in tandem. So I would say for people that have Chiron trying the GC, conjunct the GC, conjunct the Galactic Anti-Center, or opposing the GC, Jupiter conjunct Chiron, I would definitely say, or Chiron RX even, I would say it's probably pretty important for these people to understand Chiron in their chart, to understand how it functions and how it's wounded and how it needs to try to heal. That is a journey all in and of itself. But I feel like for those people, it's probably pretty important. It might even be an important way of being able to really do something with the GC energy. I'm not totally sure what that is, but do something with it. I got to think about that a little bit more. But I do think that Chiron and the GC kind of there is a tie-in, regardless if Chiron makes any GC contacts or not. Obviously, Chiron is important if it does or not, just in general. Taking it off the lens from the GC. Chiron is important regardless. But I do think it ties into the GC no matter what. But the tie is probably stronger for people that have it involved with the GC in some way. That's just kind of instinct or intuitively, that's kind of where I'm going with that. So if you're one of those people, I would recommend really understanding Chiron. Really understanding Chiron. I think it's probably really important to understand. It's important regardless, but for these people, I think it's really important. And there could be something, if it's conjunct the GC, there could be something kind of amplified about Chiron or warped about Chiron. If it's opposing the GC or conjunct the Galactic Anti-Center, there might be something kind of blinding or being blinded to what the wounding actually is, what Chiron's wounding actually is, or how it plays out. Having it trine, and don't take these as absolute truth or whatever, okay? I'm just kind of spitballing here. They may or may not manifest for you this way. But the trine, I almost feel like there's pain in the translation that needs to be worked through of the GC energy, or pain in the grounding from the Galactic Anti-Center. Exactly how that manifests, that would depend on your entire chart, but there does seem like there's something painful about the translation and about the grounding. There probably would be. It probably would be kind of tinged with pain, if you will. And also tinged with healing, once you get a good handle on it. And then Jupiter, right? Just talking basic Jupiter here. Jupiter expands. So if you've got Jupiter conjunct Chiron, Chiron is going to be expanded too. Among other Jupiter things, but you know what I mean. But yeah, take a look and see if you're one of those people that I'm talking about. Y'all know who you are. Anyway, if I do a blog post about this, I'll link it, but I'll definitely link the one that I've done about Chiron already to this. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can just click the link. If you're watching it on Instagram, you'll have to copy and paste it, or I don't know, Instagram's fucking weird. You might actually have to type it out. Sorry about that. I have no control over that. I wish they'd change that. It's very annoying to me. But anyway, I'm gonna get going. So if you want to follow us on Instagram, you can find us at Let's Fuck with Astrology. I am at Saturn Season Astrology on Instagram. Natalie is at Apaterno Astrology on Instagram. If you want to like our videos, subscribe to us on YouTube or whatever, you can search for us at Let's Fuck with Astrology. Eventually, I will say this, these longer videos will probably go directly to YouTube, and I'll be doing something else with the Instagram, or just putting like, I don't know, like previews. Eventually, not right now, but eventually. So if you all haven't subscribed to the YouTube, you might want to, if you want to keep getting these videos, seeing these videos. If you do the right thing, come join us on the subreddit Let's Fuck with Astrology. And if you're interested in the star cards, go to letsfuckwithastrology.com/star-cards. Okay, y'all. I'll see y'all later.